Hello and welcome back. I hope that you're doing well. I am Dana, and today I'm going to take you through how I have been preparing for Peachtober. Peachtober is an art challenge that was started by Furry Little Peach, who's here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And it's an art challenge that is in October. There are 31 prompts so that you can do 31 days of 31 drawings if you want, but there's no restriction to how you want to participate beyond that, really. You can do any mediums or any creative passions that you enjoy, be it knitting, crochet, cross stitch, pottery, drawing, painting, traditional, digital, writing, poetry, whatever it is that you do and love to do creatively, you can participate with, and she encourages you to. You can also participate however you want to as well, whether you want to do every day for 31 days and do 31 drawings, or if you want to do a drawing a week, one drawing for the whole of the month, however you want to participate. So the first thing I needed to plan was how I wanted to approach the art challenge this time around. This is my first time joining in for Peachtober, but last year I did do Inktober and I did all 31 days with 31 drawings, and I had to manage that around both my life but also my health as well, because I have a chronic health condition. And I talked last year when I was planning for Inktober about how I was going to manage the art challenge around my life and my health condition particularly. And at the end of the challenge, I was glad that I did it, but I realized that it was very, very difficult to manage around my health. So I knew this time going in that at this point in my life and for this October, I didn't want to do 31 drawings. So I decided to do a weekly version. And there's two different ways you can split this up. You could either do 4 weeks and do 4 illustrations, or you could do roughly 5 weeks and do 5 illustrations. Doing it this way also allows for you to still utilize all of the prompts and combine them into one illustration. So one thing that I had to decide was how I wanted to split the prompts up. And how you split them up depends on how many illustrations you're going to do. I ended up deciding that I want to do 5 illustrations. But when I was doing this planning, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do 4 yet, so I just wanted to see how the prompts would split up if I were doing 4 illustrations. I ended up choosing to do 4 lots of 6, and then the 5th was 7. They don't split up equally because 31 doesn't split up very well. So I did 6, 6, 6, 6, and then 7. And I ended up doing it in a way where each illustration, so 1 through 5, was still the same order as the month. So for example, week 1 or illustration 1 was day 1 to 6, and then illustration 2 was day 7 to 12, and so on. And I also decided to make it so that I could choose as many or as little of those prompts for each illustration. And I decided to do it that way because I was inspired by an art challenge that Audra Claire did, and I believe it was either last year or the year before that she did this challenge. I know she's not doing it this year, I don't think, or at least she hasn't posted about it if she is, but the way that her challenge worked was you could choose as many of the prompts on her list and combine them together to make different illustrations, and you could make as few or as many illustrations as you wanted during that month. So you could choose 5 prompts from anywhere on the list and make 1 illustration, and then you could make a second illustration using 4 prompts, the next one using 6, the next one using 2, and so on. So I've split up all of the prompts into sections, which I'm writing out now. And then for each section, I can choose as many of those 6 or 7 for the final illustration as I want to do. So for the first week, we have bee, cosmos, sweet, grub, sprig, and I. I'll put up the full list on screen now as I'm writing them out. And this is the official prompts list by Fairy Little Peach. And for the first week, just to give you a little teaser for what I've been planning for the first week, I have combined bee, sweet, grub, and kind of sprig a little bit. And then I've done like a little phrase that goes along with the illustration that also includes the word I. I didn't end up using cosmos in the end. I almost did, but I decided against it in the end because I felt like it kind of took away from the idea of the illustration. But that one uses nearly all of the prompts for that week, so that's pretty good. But I haven't started coming up with ideas for the others yet. I'm focusing on one illustration at a time. So we'll see what I end up doing for the second illustration onwards. But that's a little peek into the first week. Let's see if you can guess what I ended up doing, combining bee, sweet, and grub, and the hint of sprig. Let me know in the comments what you think it could be. I'm probably going to be posting it on day 3, which is sweet. That's roughly where I'm aiming to have it done by. And I won't tell you yet what I ended up choosing as my materials because part of the planning, after I split up what prompts I want to have and where, I had to choose what materials I want to use, which was very difficult. I was stuck between 2 different sets of materials. I knew that I wanted to have the same materials for each of the illustrations because I wanted to have that like continuity and cohesiveness between each of the illustrations for the whole of Peachtober. And one of the best ways to do that is either to have very similar content between all of them, like the same character, the same theme, or to use the same materials. So I decided that I want it to be materials. I had 2 different ideas and directions that I was considering. The first was to go with ink and watercolour, and then the potential to use colour pencil on top for any final shading and detail. This was the material set that I went with for Funguary this year. I did some videos on Funguary, so I'll pop them up in the cards and I might just put some on screen as well, as you can see the kind of effect that I got with those. And the second set of materials was toned paper, black and white ink, and grey tones, which would most likely be with copic markers. And that kind of effect was a little bit more Inktober-y, a little bit more like dark and moody and just monochromatic. But I ended up in the end not going with the toned paper and toned ink. I ended up going with the ink and watercolor. Once I'd decided the overall kind of art material approach that I wanted to have, I wanted to decide the specifics of the art materials. So what watercolor paper I wanted to use, what pen I wanted to use, and also the watercolor paints palette and so on. So I decided that I wanted to use hot press because I knew that this was going to be an ink heavy illustration series, and I also have a block of, I think it's roughly 10 by 7 inches hot press paper that's 100% cotton. So I've decided to go with that block for all 5 illustrations. And then I wanted to decide what watercolor palette I want to use. And in the end, I decided I didn't want to restrict myself this time. So for Funguary, I only used the mini portable painter, which is on the top right with the little blue sticker on it. I ended up deciding that I want to use more than one palette, but especially the palette that I'm holding right now, because I've not used that one in a while and it's got a bunch of different pigments on it in it that I haven't really dipped into in a long time, including an ultramarine pink. And I decided that I want to use this pen for the line work. It is a Kuretake Bimoji felt tip brush pen. It's a very similar kind of nib to the uni pin brush pen that I normally use, but I've been leaning towards using this a lot more in my sketchbook at the moment. If you're interested to know why I'm moving away from uni pin and moving more towards this, then I can definitely do like an ink illustration materials update video and let you know why I'm leaning more towards this. With the art materials decided, the final thing that I wanted to roughly plan out was an outline of my illustrating process. When it comes to art challenges, whether you're doing daily challenges or weekly like this, having a plan of attack or a plan of illustration can be very, very helpful. Obviously, how much or how little and how you plan depends greatly on your needs and how you work best, which is something that you need to figure out for yourself. But this is how I like to plan when I'm doing things like art challenges, because having all of these stages laid out allows me to allot my energy and time, especially when I'm working around my life and my health. And a lot of spoonies can probably relate to the need to allot your energy. It can be very helpful to have everything laid out in stages for me. And then if I have, for example, 6 days, like I have between each of these illustrations, I can be like, right, okay, I've got each of these stages, I've got 6 days to work with. Where am I going to put each of these stages? And make sure that I get it done in 6 days. And the process that I went for was to do the initial sketching. So this is coming up with the thumbnails and then playing around with composition, identifying any particular elements that need more work. So for example, with the first illustration, here's another hint for you. I needed to figure out how I wanted to illustrate the detail of honeycomb from afar in brush pen. So that was something that I needed to do a little bit more playing around with before coming up with the finished sketch. And then once I have the finished sketch, I then need to sketch it out on watercolor paper using the initial sketches as reference. Then there's the inking stage, initial watercolor layers, final watercolor layers, and then any potential color pencil layering. So that's the rough plan for each of the illustrations. And there's going to be 5 total. I'm going to be doing a video for each of these. So if you're interested in finding out what I get up to for Peachtober, please subscribe and let me know if you're joining in for Peachtober or any of the other art challenges below. Feel free to tag me in your posts as well on Instagram if you're joining in for any art challenges. I'd love to see what you're getting up to. One of the main perks of these challenges is sharing our creativity with each other and the whole community aspect. So I look forward to seeing what all of you get up to. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!